G'day YouTube, Turbo Tristan here, and in today's video I'm going to start to pull apart the gearbox and clutch and flywheel off the engine in anticipation for the new Stage 3 competition racing clutch that I've got ordered for the car, which is going to handle around about 350 horsepower. I've got my fingers crossed for around 250, so that should be plenty of clamping force and strong enough to hold up to the punishment that this car's going to get at the track. The only hold back now is it's going to still have the stock diff. One tyre fire, here we come. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and take out the air intake, move a lot of this stuff out of the road. I'll need to remove the starter motor out of the top, nice and easy to get to. Normally if you were going to do this and remove your starter motor or put any tools anywhere near the starter motor, you would need to disconnect your battery. As you can see, I don't have a battery in the car, catch can's there, and I'm still organising wiring up the battery in the boot of the car. So no battery, nothing to worry about here. So I'm going to pull apart this and start taking everything out. I've never done this before, so this is all new to me. I'm just going to start to take all the bolts out from around the bell housing, take out the starter motor and just disconnect the clutch master cylinder over there and just start to pull things apart. See how we go. So I'm going to stick it on a time lapse. Well YouTube, it's the very next day and I've got a little surprise for you. Yes, that's right, the gearbox is out. It's right here on the ground. I'm going to clean that up. This was me spraying some oven cleaner on there yesterday. I've been told it's the best thing to clean these with because you don't have to do much scrubbing. So bam, and the dirt is gone. I couldn't get this pin out of here, which means you can take off the gear selector, so I just pulled it out with it on. I didn't end up filming too much of that because it started to get really cold and really dark. There are just a bunch of bolts to pull out. It's really straightforward and really simple to do. This one and these two need to be done from the back of the engine under the car, behind where the oil filter and everything. The oil filter goes around about here, so it's a little bit tough to get to, but I could still fit the rattle gun in there, which was good. And yeah, the reason why I stopped filming is because it got really dark and really cold, and it just would have been a really boring time lapse watching someone undo bolts, or really watching the back of my head as I leant over in the engine bay. But it's out now. I wanted to film me actually taking it out and lifting it out, but I was underneath the car and I thought I'd try and see if it would move a little bit, so I jammed the screwdriver in and started to push it away from the block, and then it just came out. So didn't have time to stop and film. I was trying to hold a gearbox from falling on me, It's not really heavy or anything, it's just awkward, and being my first time, I just ran with it, but it's out now. The gear oil that has been dripping out of it is actually really clean, so that tells me that that's been serviced regularly. This clutch never slipped, never gave me an issue. The clutch plates and everything look pretty good. I'm sure that would have kept going for another 100,000 Ks if it wasn't being turboed. And the flywheel looked pretty good as well. Not sure how you tell, but it nice and smooth. There's no discoloration on there, so that all came off nice and easily. Bit of oil there on the back, and this is the old main seal. I've got a new one of those, not to worry. I've got to try and get this bearing out somehow. I'm pretty sure my new flywheel comes with a bearing, but I might need to take that out. One thing that did suck and that I wasn't prepared for was removing the rear main seal. I'm going to need to actually take the sump off, which means unbolting the exhaust and taking the sump off, just so I can get that little cover out, and then push the rear main seal into that, put some gasket glue around the back of it, push that back on, tighten that down, then redo the sump again, which that really sucks, but it's what you got to do, so I'm going to do that now. The clutch appears to be delayed anyway, so it's going to give me a lot of time to go through everything, tidy up the whole car, and just get things in order, do things right. It is currently freezing. I'm doing this after work in the evenings, and it is really hard crawling around on the cold concrete, so I'm just doing a little bit each day. I really need to be sponsored by Voltaren one day. So I'm just going to have a fiddle around with the car, and if I see anything that needs filming, I'll bring you guys back. But otherwise, I'm going to get to work pulling off the sump, taking the exhaust off, cleaning up the gearbox housing there. Alright, so it's day 3, not working on the car today. It's absolutely freezing here in Melbourne. It's below 10 degrees outside at the moment. It's 6 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon, but I've spent the last 2 evenings under the car on my back in the freezing cold. I didn't film a lot of it. I've got the gearbox out, I've given it a clean with the oven cleaner. I've washed it out, it's just sitting face down like that because just letting it drip dry from the inside. I've ordered some new drive shaft seals for each side. They're on their way, and that will get a final clean down before it goes back in the car. The rear main seal's done. It's been sealed up, put back on. It was a real pain. You had to take off those 4 bolts and then drop the whole entire sump just to get that little cover out. There's no way of removing the rear main seal without doing that, so that was a pain in the butt. So I'm waiting for the clutch and flywheel and new throwout bearing to arrive. I'm probably going to do a pivot ball adjustment to make the clutch engagement a little bit easier and quicker by changing the fulcrum on the clutch ball where the fork goes on, and you do that simply by adding 1 or 2 washers underneath it and then screwing it back in. It raises the pivot point, meaning that less force to push the clutch fork in. So I'm going to do that. That was a trick we used to do on the gearboxes of our S13s, S14, Silvia 200SX Nissans. So I'm going to try that out on the Civic. Can't hurt. I've also gotten underneath the car, spent a long time getting this bad boy out. Now that goes down there underneath the intake manifold, right above the oil filter, and this is like a factory style oil catch can. Now a lot of the bad smells from the crankcase breather come out of here, and then they usually go back into your intake. Now this one had a broken Pcv valve, which is your crankcase pressure ventilation valve, so I have to take that off because the car's now running boost, and this would be pouring out oil pressure and probably oil out of the bottom of the engine. It's just above the sump on the back of the engine there. If we have a look inside, I'll just turn the light on. Very hard to see, guys, sorry. That's got a bit of oil in the base of it. I do have a fitting which is this size, which is going to go into the block, and then it's going to be secured with this tab here, which is a space on the block, so it's going to stop that from coming out. and it's got a -10 line which is going to go to the bottom of the catch can over there. So there's the -10 fitting at the bottom, so it's going to breathe from the crankcase ventilation down the bottom to here. Everything's still going to work the same, but it's going to catch in this if anything does come out. Plus it's going to go uphill. That's all going to be blocked off, so we're not going to risk leaking any oil or anything out of the back of the motor. I've also gone ahead and ordered new air conditioning and power steering belts, so they should be here on Monday as well. So really with this video, it's just an update. It's just a vlog. We're not doing a special install. We're not doing any special mods today. I've got an intake pipe that's down at the post office. Got to go pick that up along with some silicone. Then once I get that situated, I'll decide whether I'm going to put a pod up here or down there. Just depends on space and room. So we're waiting on that. We're waiting on the fitting for here. We're waiting on the clutch and flywheel. Once that's all in, we can put it all back together. So I've got a new rear main seal on, new power steering belt, a new alternator belt, drive shaft seals for the gearbox. Now the only thing that can go wrong from here, and that's my biggest fear, and I'm sure anyone who's putting together an engine that's about to triple its factory power, especially an old tied motor like this, is that it's going to blow up on the dyno. And by blow up I mean spin a bearing, crack a ringland, or worse, throw a rod straight out the block. I don't mind if it blows up, but I want to get a track day out of it, do some dyno runs, do some driving on the street, do a few street pulls, try and find some people to race, put down a track time at Sandown Raceway, and also just enjoy the car. It's been a lot of time, a lot of effort, quite a bit of money. It all added up really quickly. But after that, if and when it does blow, we're probably not going to muck around with this motor. Going to go straight for a K swap. I'm thinking a K20. Don't know whether to keep it front wheel drive. I do really want to, and I dream of doing an all-wheel drive conversion, but we'll just see how funds and everything go. Some exciting news in the background is we do have another project car waiting in the wings. I'm just waiting on a couple of parts to arrive for that, but we're going to get started on a first impressions drive. Just talking a bit about the car and what its purpose is, and then start to fit some very small modifications. It's a really nice car, so we're not going to go crazy with modding it, but we're just going to make it nice and tidy. Got a few really nice OEM plus additions for that one. All out on the top of the range parts and just best quality pieces to enhance this car, not to modify. It's not a race car. Stay tuned and you'll find out what that is in the next few days. Going to hopefully start filming that one on the weekend. So that's exciting, an extra project. The week after that, I'll have the ECU all wired in and ready to go. The battery will be wired in the boot, so there'll be a video on that. Video on the clutch and flywheel, and the gearbox reinstall. So heaps and heaps to come. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Sorry about the boring vlog video, but there is never a dull moment. I'm always working on the car. I'm always working behind the scenes, and I'll definitely bring you a video every single week. Just an update, we're at 250 subscribers now, so a quarter of the way to my first goal, which is 1,000. So that's really good. I know it sounds small, but we're a growing channel, so every comment helps, every like helps, every subscribe helps. So if you're watching this, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.